Rightio guys, so in the words of a wise friend of mine, Alan Jones, shit's getting real. So yeah, I actually haven't been doing many vids on this lately. I guess partly I've actually got a big backlog of old footage that I've got to get edited and back together, so sometimes it just feels like the more recording I do, the more editing I have to do. So I've actually got lots of footage of all these panels that are hanging up recorded, and I haven't actually got around to editing it yet. But yeah, basically what we're up to now, we're powering on through this job, guys. Like the whole car is in primer, right? The whole car, like that is amazing. The engine bay still needs to be painted. I'm going to do that next, just for the sake that it's already up the back here. I actually, sorry, now the boot lid does still need a prime, but it just made sense to me to paint the inside first, bolt it up, and then for the final prime. So that's got polyester spray filler on it. So from there, it might need another fill like here and there. But I wanted to, because what can happen sometimes with your boot hinges, once you bolt them down, you can get little suck-ins around there. You can get like slight distortions of the panel, especially more so with boots and bonnets. I don't think it does it so much on doors, but so I decided to paint the inside first, gap it up, get it sitting exactly where it needs to, and then I can do those final bits of sanding. So it's my favorite epoxy primer. It's the Quartz zinc rich ISO free epoxy primer, and I'm going to be using it as a non-sanding, so just mix it up and spray straight over it. That's all been tack ragged down, and I did decide to leave, so I'm doing the boot jams here at the same time, but I did decide to leave that covered while I get the epoxy down. That'll give me something to do while this is flashing off as well, but it'll also stop that from getting covered in this epoxy primer too. That's good enough for inside there, guys. I'm happy with that. It's not perfect, but what is perfect? Rightio, let's get some color mixed up. Yeah, boy, I can barely even believe that this is actually happening. I can barely kind of believe that this is the point that I'm up to. So less than 1 year. I say, I don't know, like I say full restoration to my, like it's been restored to my standards. So yeah, you can say it's not a full restoration unless you do every single nut and bolt and blah 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 blah. Well, to me this is a full restoration. Anyway, yeah, boy, I wasn't sure if that was pre-thinned, but after seeing how thick it is, I know it's not pre-thinned, which is good, because I'm gonna need every drop that I can get, because these oranges don't cover that well. So you can see the transparentness on the stick there. See how it runs off, and you can see the very top edge turns dark straight away. It does generally mean that it's not going to cover very well. So it is important to get a good ground coat color. So I mean, it's not a big deal, but as long as you get that ground coat, like it's not a big deal that it doesn't cover well, as long as you're aware of it. But one good thing is that I'll get a good idea, because I've got these two different colors here. So I've got the white primer, but because I did have to put a little bit of seam sealer in there, I did decide to just put a little bit of that epoxy primer over the top of it, and that was mainly for a color reason, like because the seam sealer was even darker than that epoxy primer. But let's get some thinners. And where's my stirring stick? There it is, one of the best stirring sticks in the game. Where's my thinners? So that'll probably need about 150 mils if it's 2 to 1, and we've got 300 mils of color. It's going to be about close enough. Yeah, we've been struggling to get any of this. I've got a tiny little bit, this spray gun cleaner left. I've been using it very sparingly since I found out that it was on back order. So it's going to come back in stock here in Melbourne in a couple more weeks. But yes, I've actually been using brake cleaner, and it's not perfect, it's not the best for cleaning the guns out. It can curdle some of the products, like it doesn't quite rip into it, but yeah. Anyway, this color here is actually a 3-stage pearl, so I'm gonna put this orange down first, which is a pretty nice orange. I think it'll suit the Torana, but yeah, like as soon as I seen this color, I'm like, man, that's my Torana. Like I always thought like just doing a standard solid color is kind of a bit boring, but on the other hand, it's what suits the era, you know what I mean? So when I saw this one, it's a very subtle pearl. So it is actually a 3-layer pearl, but it's very, very subtle. So it doesn't like jump right out at you. That's why I'm like, man, that's perfect. Either way, I'm just gonna give this gun a quick flush out. That's actually been about half an hour since I put that down, so that should be nice and dry. I must have missed that in the prep work, but you know what? I don't care. It's okay. It's on the inside of the boot. I was actually sort of toying with the idea of like sanding, like doing a sandable prime, like doing a normal high build primer over the top of the epoxy, but then I'm just like, man, you can go too far. That's basically the point I got to. I'm like, you can go too far on these old cars. Yeah, see what I mean? How it's kind of curdling up there a little bit? That might actually be partly because of that epoxy. Yeah, the epoxy primer, that can actually curdle up even with this. So let's see what it does with this acetone. That gun needs a bit of a clean out. Actually, it's gone and gotten, usually when that happens, there's a bit of paint, and that's exactly what it is. All right, that'll start spraying fine now. What you can sometimes do, even with these Pro Lights, is just turn that cap back around on itself, and it'll just dislodge that bit that's stopped it from spraying right. Double check that spraying right before I go get the paint in the gun. Yeah, we're all good. Alright, back to what we were up to a minute ago. Here. Ah, we're about to get some color on this thing. I can't even believe it. Wow. Alright, so that's the ground coat down and dried. Generally I do try to avoid using the heat gun when I'm painting anything really, because they can blow like dust and air, but it's actually a little bit of a kind of cold night tonight and it just wasn't drying otherwise, so yeah, I did have to get the heat gun out, but I can't actually see, I couldn't see any dust blowing out of it, and it actually looks pretty good, so better than what I expected. especially considering that I haven't even swept this place up. I haven't watered the floor, but the way I see it, as long as I don't sort of disturb it, just sort of like, it should be okay. And as I say, I'm not sort of expecting perfection out of this anyway, so get the thinners. I was actually a bit surprised. I don't remember this pearl looking quite like that, but when I did paint this, to be fair, it was in Stano blue, and those colours always look a bit funky. Like the colour of that base coat changes drastically when it's wet to when it's dry. So yeah, I don't know. I was sort of expecting more of a bluer tinge, but again, that's probably just because I'm used to the Stano blue. It's probably the right colour. But as they say, this is a pre-mixed colour. And check it, make sure it's right before you spray. So I did only get 4 litres of the pearl, because I'm only going to be putting 2 coats of the pearl on. Whereas with the orange, it's a poor covering colour, and I'm going to need 3 coats minimum. That filter, just so busy doing everything, never ending with the working. I'll tell you what, with me. Back on with the respirator. But the beauty of this color is you don't even really notice that it's a 3-layer pearl until you get it in the sun. Like here, I can barely even notice it. All right, so put 2 coats of the top coat pearl down. That's looking good. So I went wet with the first one, medium, or more dry, like medium to dry on the second coat. Yeah, I think, I don't know if it's just me making it up, but I think that second coat, like going on a bit dry, sort of helped the metallic particles stand up a bit, and that is something that I do seem to remember from the solvent days, the good old solvent days. Like you go on a bit drier and you get that effect to sort of stand up a little bit. So yeah, I'll definitely be doing that when I paint the outside of the car too, just to get a little bit more effect out of it. But as I say, it's a very, very subtle effect in this, and that's good. In the interest of saving a bit of paint, I guess I'm just going to reuse that same pot there. You can see there's a little bit of base coat down the bottom there, but you can do that with solvent, it's not going to hurt. So that's our 2 to 1 there. 2 to 1 and 10%, that's exactly the ratio that we need. I guess we'll just mix up a full pot using the Quartz liquid glass clear. So extra fast there. So we should have a Speedster additive. There we go, VOC Performance Speedster, that's the one. So that should speed the drying procedure up, which is what I need, especially in the garage. And that goes in at 10%. So yeah, this is a little bit different than most clear coats. Like generally it's the hardener which determines the speed, but with the Quartz liquid glass, it's actually the clear itself. So as you can see here, I've got extra fast. Now when I'm spraying the rest of the car, I'll be using standard when I'm doing the exterior of the car, sorry. So I am actually going to paint all the jambs here at home. I'm going to do the door jambs, the insides of the doors, get them all bolted back on, and then it's going to be drivable. I still will need it to be towed into work, and then yeah, just drive it around and put it on the back of a tow truck. It's drivable around the workshop, I mean. Drive it up into the booth, mask it up, paint it, put it on the tow truck, bring it back home, and then that's one thing I've always been conscious of is I don't like to sort of overstay my welcome with anyone, and that's, you know, even the same type thing with my bosses. So I think it's awesome that he's even letting me use the spray booth, but you definitely don't want to sort of overstay your welcome and have it sitting around his workshop getting in people's ways. So that's, as much as anything, that's actually why I'm doing the job this way. Like I would generally prefer to paint the panels off the car, if I had a spray booth right next to, if I had a proper spray booth here in my backyard, that's how I would do it. I would paint the panels off the car. But yeah, just as I say, mainly in the interest of, yeah, not pissing the boss off and not having it hanging around in the workshop for too long. Yeah, again, I'll just keep reusing that same lid, waste not, want not. Especially when you're paying for everything yourself here. Well, Spray Guns Direct did send out the paint, and again, thanks for that, guys. But we just make sure that is dry. It sort of looks like it might be a touch tacky in some spots, so that's dry there. It's actually really dry there. Just looks a touch shiny down here, so what it's worth. I don't want to go and put my finger in it just in case it's not, but that's where, oh no, that's actually dry. That's going to be fun. Alright. Yes, 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 this is so good. It's actually pretty clean too. I don't actually even remember doing that little chuckle. I don't even know why I was chuckling to myself. It was possibly about the overspray, but I might have just been overwhelmingly happy to finally get some color down onto my Torana. So hopefully you guys have enjoyed watching this video. I was actually planning on doing a couple of spray gun reviews next, but I've just been so obsessed with my Torana, and yeah, I couldn't sit down there behind the computer when the Torana is sitting out there calling to be painted. And yeah, I'm sure you guys are probably all happy to see a bit of colour on it finally. It's been a long time. So what are we up to? Like, I think, yeah, episode number 23 now. So thanks everyone for watching. And yeah, I'd say we're past the halfway point now anyway. But there you go, guys. As I say, not perfect, but for inside there, like, that's definitely good enough for me. I'm not looking for any kind of a show finish. It's shiny. It's the color I want. It's all been treated for rust. It's, I've used the good primers and, good quality clear coats as well. And there you go, guys. So next up, I do actually have a little bit of painting to do in the boot there itself, and a bit of seam sealer around the tail light buckets on the inside. Then I'll be putting that boot lid back on, getting it aligned up, and then I will be actually moving back onto the front. So I want to get the black on the engine bay painted, and then I'll get those doors trial fitted up, and then I'll move on to painting the door jambs. And yeah, making good progress, guys. Anyway, if you'd like to support the channel further, be sure to go and check out the link in the description. You can go and buy yourself some awesome Gunman merchandise. And if you also want to support the channel, you can just, if you want any paint supplies or materials, you can always go over to Spray Guns Direct. They are the ones who did sponsor this series. So if you want any of the paints that I've been using in this series, or even the body fillers that I've been using, I do recommend going and checking out Spray Guns Direct. Anyway, until next time, I'll see you in the next one. Gunman out.